I know you have not seen my face on this show in it's been 2 weeks. I am the NFL genius back on Coffee and Sports in the Morning, next to the man that's always here, the guy that just brings it day in, day out. They called Adrian Peterson all day. I call Mo Better all day. Mr. All Day, Mo Better.
Hey, how's it going? Good morning, Gene. Welcome back. You were missed, brother. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let's get into it.
We got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk about the NBA play-in games. I got to give my take on WrestleMania. There's only 2 days left before WrestleMania. We will be doing a watch-along. You got baseball. It's in mid-frame. The NFL draft is next week. You better join us next week for our watch-along. It's going to be the NFL draft watch-along that we do every year on Sideline to Sideline. But I got an interesting story to start the day with. And, it just got released this morning. It's very infrequent that I don't have prepared what I'm going to talk about to start the show. But this morning just laid it up on a silver platter for me. World's #1 tennis player, Jannik Sinner, he accepted a 3-month suspension for anti-doping. He got caught failing 2 drug tests. Basically Italy's national team and USADA, the anti-doping agency, came to an agreement that he would basically take a 3-month ban, which would allow him to miss 0 majors. He was tested positive for 2 anabolic steroids twice. So he wants to claim negligence or did not know that this drug, I've heard that story 1 million times. But he was tested positive for close ball, a banned anabolic steroid. And I'll say this. My reason of talking about it this morning is Serena Williams talked about this last night. And it got posted this morning. And I think it was actually very intelligent. She goes, I love the guy. Love his game. He's great for the sport. I've been put down so much. I don't want to bring anyone down. Men's tennis needs him. But if I did that, I'd have gotten 20 years. Let's be honest. I would have gotten my Grand Slams taken away. Mo, is Serena Williams speaking fact?
She's speaking all facts. And you led with he readily accepted a 3-month suspension, right? To me, if you readily accept it that quick, that tells me you did something so bad that you readily accepted 3 months. You know what I mean? You're not fighting it. You're not going to litigation over it. You accepted that. I have to think that you did something even worse, and we only have the surface of what you did. And Serena's correct. Had it been her, they would have asked her to hand over some of her grand slams, it would have been a year suspension or more. It would have been a bigger story. It would have been a bigger controversy. She's right. She lives in a space where she wouldn't have been granted the same grace that he was granted. And I don't understand. I do understand it. I don't want to say I don't understand it. I do understand it. And when they say that it may appear like there's been favoritism, it's not appear. There's been favoritism. And him taking the 3 months and going, well, it's done. The story's over. I feel like that's the powers that be in tennis trying to sweep this under the rug and like, let's move on. There's nothing here. He's agreed to the 3 months and we move on. And I like that Serena is speaking out. I hope others join her in saying this is a big deal. And this is something that shouldn't go away right now. And she can't believe that that's the only thing that he's dealing with is a 3-month suspension when he should be under a lot more scrutiny, and his suspension or punishment should have been a lot stiffer.
Yeah, on March 10th, 2024, during the BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells, California, he tested positive, and on March 18th, he tested positive again for the same substance. In both tests, low levels of the drug were detected. The March 10 sample was 86, whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole dynamics of it, but he tested positive, and it's the same drug that Fernando Tatis was suspended by the MLB for 80 games for. So I don't know what explanation he can give, but I will say this. I think the fact that he's 21, the world's number one tennis player in a sport that not a lot of people are following, that tennis is just like, oh crap, we got to sweep this under the rug. But right. I'll say this, Mo, you're dead right. And you know the people that would have been turning on Serena? American people would have been turning on her. People in her own country. Oh, that's why she's so good. She's cheating. She's cheating. He's 2-time number one, 2-time Grand Slam champion, world's number one player. Not a story. Barely a story. And if it wasn't for Serena talking about it, I probably wouldn't even know it happened. And that's for somebody that casually follows tennis. Like, I'm not a huge tennis guy, but I followed it throughout the years. And if it wasn't for Serena's comments, I probably wouldn't even known about it.
We wouldn't be talking about it. And like tennis planned to do, this would be quietly swept under the rug, and we'd move on. He'd go on being the man's number one player, and he'd also go on being the face of men's tennis. Look, on a personal level, I am a casual tennis fan, and I get it. He's young, talented. Everything is looking forward towards him. But when you're wrong, you're wrong. And my problem with tennis is, and not just tennis, there are other organizations that go this route. They seem to pick and choose who they want to punish and how they want to punish them. And everybody should be under the same umbrella and face the same scrutiny. And I feel like this guy's skating because tennis wants to let him skate. Had it been Serena, I think this would have been a national story. We would be talking about this for more than just a day. We'd be talking about this the better part of a week or two, and people would be talking about how many things she should give back, awards she should give back. And you pointed out something that's very true. They would have said, now we know why she was great for 20 years, right? That would have been the story all this time, right?
You could have tested positive for Adderall, and they would have made excuses that's the reason that she was so good at tennis.
In a heartbeat. And look, how many times have we seen an athlete fail a test multiple times, and then they go, oh, I didn't even know I'm not supposed to use that. I didn't even know, or my trainer forgot and he gave me the wrong thing. Like, there's always an excuse, but we've heard it all the time. You didn't fail one test, you failed two. And like I said, he didn't go down kicking and screaming and saying, no, I'm going to fight this. He willingly took the 3 months because he was guilty of sin.
It couldn't be more accurate. It couldn't. Excuse me. You couldn't be more accurate, Mo. Let's switch up pace for a minute. NBA last night had the 9-10 play-in game. In the Eastern Conference, even in the Western Conference, this play-in game is awful. It's just terrible. And I'll give you my opinion in a minute, but I didn't even know Dallas was in the play-in game. Like, in my eyes, I was just like, what's going? Like, Dallas, they lost Kyrie. I didn't even know. I'm not kidding with you. The amount of give a crap about the Dallas Mavericks I had after Kyrie's injury and AD wasn't playing was like below. I didn't care at all, right? They went into Sacramento last night and got a win, and Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson turned back the hands of time. And, once he's seen one 3-pointer go down, he ended up finishing 5 of 7. They beat the Sacramento Kings. After the game, Monty McNair, the Sacramento Kings GM, was ousted from the team. Like, that was like a pre-planned thing. There's no way they weren't like, after the season's over, you're fired. Like, just to let you know. Because 3 weeks ago, his assistant GM just took a job somewhere else. So, like, you kind of knew that was coming. Wes Wilcox took a job to become the GM of the University of Utah men's basketball team. So, like, you knew what was end up happening here. What I will ask is this. Last night's games just, they to me did not have any luster. Tyler Hero looked good. 38 points, beat the Bulls, who me and you have been telling Will for a better part of a month that you guys shouldn't be happy to win games right now.
Right.
Like, this is not what you should want. But your thoughts on last night's games? Because we're going to get into 2 nights ago's games. I didn't get a chance to talk about them. But your thoughts on last night's games? Do any one of these 4 teams, or 2 teams now left, have a chance to make any noise in the playoffs?
No. They're where they are for a reason. I'll be honest. The Heat Bulls game, I was done after the first half. I'd seen enough. There are better things to do in life than waste minutes of your life watching that. That didn't even feel like, I know it's supposed to feel like a playoff game. It felt like the first game of the season. It was bad. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't competitive. The Mavericks game was pretty much the same thing. It was bad, wasn't entertaining, it did not feel like playoff basketball. And look, in the bigger picture, if Dallas is able to beat Memphis on Friday, I think that's a great deal for Oklahoma City. Would you rather, even though Memphis has its flaws, would you rather play a fully healthy Memphis who has a lot more talent, or the Dallas Mavericks who really don't have any great perimeter players? Of course you'd rather play the Mavericks. That's a sweep. I think they still beat Memphis, but I think Memphis, even though they're undisciplined, they have enough talent. They can win a game or 2. Dallas is not going to win 1 game versus Oklahoma City.
You said that perfectly. I think that Memphis as a whole is so undisciplined. And for them to fire their coach, just 3 weeks ago in the midst of a playoff run, and them to look even, I think they look even worse coach now. Like, I'm just being very clear with you. I watched a game the other night versus the Warriors, and look, nothing against Golden State. Golden State tried giving that game away. Like, they absolutely tried to give that game away. They went up early. I think they were up like 16, 17 points in the second quarter. Steph Curry was hitting threes, falling out of balance, getting fouled, and what a miraculous shot. And then all of a sudden, it was 101-100 Memphis. I'm like, wait a minute. It was like a 17-point game like 20 minutes ago. Memphis came all the way back, and down the stretch, it was very obvious what team was better coached, what team had the right plays coming out of the timeout. I think Memphis is an extremely talented team. I think firing your coach before the end of the season when you're in the playoffs is always going to be a terrible move.
No, I agree. Look, my problem with Memphis is obviously I don't get the coaching change. Clearly, it wasn't for the better, but it's clearly a team that's undisciplined. They don't have leadership on the floor or in their locker room amongst their 3 best players. They're not leaders, especially the guy that's supposed to be their franchise player. He's a lot of things. He's not a leader. That said, Steph Curry has a huge game. Jimmy Butler has a bigger game. They get over 30 points from their bench, and that game was a 1-possession game that ended. This goes back to coaching. Ended on the fact that Memphis couldn't inbound the ball. That's how it ended. They could not inbound the ball. My point is, look, I'm not anti-Golden State. I just don't think they're good as people think they are. Everything went right for them. Their 2 best players had huge games. Their bench had a huge game. Memphis turned the ball over 19 times. All the things that could go in your favor, and they won because Memphis couldn't get the ball in bounds. Like, I think Golden State can win against Houston. I've said what I've said about Houston all season long. They're very similar to Memphis. They have a lot of talent. They're very deep, a lot of athletes. What they don't have shooting, and their best player is one of the most inconsistent players in the NBA. I don't think that's a formula for success.
He's also not a leader. Rumblings out in Memphis was they were trying to have more balanced offense with Desmond Bain, Ja Morant, and Jaren Jackson, and Ja just wasn't having it. He was the star. He was what needed to happen. Like, he was the guy. And I don't know, just even in the playoff game versus the Warriors, Desmond Bain was their best scorer. He was going off. I'm not saying Ja's not their best player, but like, teams win when you don't care how you win.
Right. Correct.
And I'll say this, Mo. Me and you will disagree on the Golden State Warriors, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. When I go into a playoff series and the benches are shortened and you're in a situation where experience matters and you have two guys that have notoriously turned it on in the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, you got two elite defenders in Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, and you have a plethora of young talent that could step up, like Pods. Like, I love Gary Payton. Maybe I'm the only guy on the planet that loves Gary Payton.
No, I like him as well.
I love the way he plays the game. You got guys like that, and I've always been a Moses Moody fan since the SEC days. When you got guys like that, I feel like you have a chance. Now, what I would be very upset about, and nothing against Houston, I don't want to be that guy, but if we're robbed of one final LeBron versus Steph Curry playoff matchup, I will be upset. I want that badly. It will be the prime time game every night of the week that it's on. It'll be great for the sport of basketball. It's Steph Curry versus LeBron James. You don't have to be a genius marketer to be able to put together the video for preview for this series.
Correct. I agree. I'm not worried about, look, this is no disrespect to Houston. Like I said, I just, what they lack is they don't have a closer on offense. They have a lot, every element you need to be a legitimate title contender. What they don't have is they don't have a closer on offense. And I believe Golden State's going to win that series. I don't know if it's going to be a 6-game series, but I think you will get Golden State in LA. So I'm not worried about that happening. That's going to happen, and that's going to be a treat for anybody that's a fan of basketball and fans of these two transcendent players that you mentioned. I think Houston is still a player away, and that will bear out throughout that series.
One player that you know about and I know about, but the whole world doesn't really know about, that they're going to learn about in that series, is Amen Thompson. Whoa.
Yes.
I think that he has the potential and the ability to be an elite two-way player in the league. Right now, I think he's still right now he's a top 5, top 7 defender in basketball. I think that in 2-3 years from now, he could be one of the better two-way players in all of basketball.
I'm right there with you. I would actually argue that he should have got some consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. That's how good a defender he is. And I think his offense is underrated. He's got a bag. He can already break people down off the dribble, freakish athlete. What he's missing is a consistent perimeter shot. But I'm with you. I think he's going to be a star two-way player when it's all said and done. And he could very well be Houston's best player. I'm just saying right now, today, he's not ready to, be the guy to carry them. They have a lot of talent, but it's the kind of talent that versus a Golden State team you mentioned with Steph, with Jimmy, Draymond with his super high basketball IQ. I love Pods. I'm with you on Moody. They have a lot of comparable parts coming off that bench that back up their core 3. I trust their core 3 a lot more than I trust Houston's core 3.
I agree with you. I do want to bring this up because I feel like this will be the last day we can bring it up. But in a 22-point Orlando victory, well, I mean, I think it ended up being more than that when it was all said and done. Trae Young was tossed from the game. He threw a hard pass and showed a little fancy ball handling, and then basically disrespected the official afterwards. Is it time for Trae Young to just move on into a different situation? I don't think here's let me kind of get my point together, but I think the frustration levels with Trae Young in Atlanta are beyond. Like, I don't care what happens. I think the Heat end up beating them tomorrow night. Like, I think the Heat will win that game because I think Atlanta is just in that turmoil where they're just ready to be done with the season. Like, they look so uninspired versus Orlando the other night. I mean, I thought Orlando was going to win the basketball game. I didn't think it was going to be like that.
I thought Orlando was going to win if they could control Trae Young, which I thought they did to a great degree. He had moments, but the biggest thing to me was if you watch that game, the referees let them play. And when you let them play, the frustration for Trae Young is those calls that he used to getting where he's going to the line 14, 15 times, he didn't get that. They allowed
that about the NBA playoffs, though. Don't you love that about the NBA playoffs, that they allow the people to play?
I mean, I love that.
Even in the game, there was still 63 free throws. So what? Or 61 free throws, sorry.
Right. But yeah, look, I love it that they allow a little bit more physicality. I thought that was actually the key to Golden State beating Memphis. That Golden State, who's actually is the smaller team, they were more physical than Memphis. You watch the game and they're playing Draymond at center. I think a couple of times I saw Jimmy Butler play center. Jimmy Butler was matched up with Zach Edey on both ends of the floor repeatedly, and I'm in my head, I'm sitting there going like, the fact that you can guard Zach Edey with a 6'5", 6'6" guy, that speaks to what Zach Edey lacks. And I'm not trying to kill Zach Edey because I think he will be a solid NBA player, but you're 7 feet plus and you're getting moved around by guys a lot smaller than you. Every time Zach Edey got a rebound and he brought it down, they stripped him.
I like to ask you this. When you look at, and I don't, JJ Redick's done an incredible job as coach this year, in my opinion. Just want to start there. Do you think teams are starting to? I seen this happen about 3 years ago with Brad Stevens and the Celtics before Ime Udoka, 4 or 5 years ago when before Ime Udoka took over, before we had this situation to where you have Joe Mazzulla as their head coach.
Right.
Do you think teams are starting to adapt to that physical guard playing the center that can't shoot? Like, so I'll give you an example, right? Even a physical forward. Marcus Smart was sticking Joel Embiid in the playoffs, multiple possessions. You see Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green playing the center position. For the Lakers, they constantly have LeBron as like the center, as the roamer, like the guy, like, I'm not worried about him shooting. I'm going to try to jump a lane. Like, is that a new small style basketball, like coaching defensively, that we haven't seen before?
I think it is. And I think that, the NBA in a lot of ways is kind of a copycat league. The Celtics started that. Drew Holiday constantly guards bigs, right? You'll see Drew Holiday guarding people's bigs. And I think that speaks to, one, the versatilities of those particular players, but it also speaks to the lack of dominant centers. Like, Drew Holiday's not going to be matched up against Joker very often.
No.
But if he can get matched up against, let's say, like a DeAndre Ayton or like a Zach Edey, guys who are basically rim runners, not guys that get fed the ball 15, 16 times a game, you can get away with that. And there are a lot of teams in this NBA that have centers that are more complementary pieces than go-to guys. So, yeah, I agree. I do think that's a new wrinkle teams are putting in. The Lakers, to their advantage, yes, LeBron's playing a center, but LeBron weighs about 265. He might not be taller than the guy he's guarding, but he's bigger and stronger. So it's easy for him to switch to center.
Yeah, but Draymond's done it for years too. He's stuck Jokic in the playoffs. And like, I've seen this strategy ever since Marcus Smart was sticking Joel Embiid 5 years ago or 6 years ago with Brad Stevens coaching the Celtics. I've seen this, and just, they say all the time, the NFL is a copycat league. The NBA is becoming a copycat league when they find, and I got to give credit where credit's due. This is without a doubt, no doubt in my mind, the best year for coach of the year in the history of basketball. You have so many, and hear me out when I say this. You have so many guys that can make a statement for Coach of the Year this year. Why isn't Imi Udoka Coach of the Year for the Houston Rockets? What they've done. They're the 2 seed in the West. Why isn't Mark Daigneault, who basically almost won 70 games as the Oklahoma City Thunder's head coach, not Coach of the Year?
I'm with you.
Last year on Coffee and Sports in the Morning, we talked about how Detroit's pieces do not fit together. This team's never going to work the way they're currently constructed with Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham. And JB Bickerstaff went in there and said, sure it will. We'll make it work. And coached the hell out of that team. Why isn't he Coach of the Year? Oh, because Kenny Atkinson took over a Cavs team who was basically a borderline fringe 4 or 5 team and went wall to wall in the Eastern Conference. And that's ignoring the fact that JJ Redick took a Lakers team that was pretty much left for dead. They're old, they're this, they're that, and is implored different styles of basketball to be a better basketball team. And the coaching in the NBA, and that all that saying, I think a top 5 coach in all basketball was just fired by the Denver Nuggets 2 weeks ago, Michael Malone.
Oh, I agree.
Crazy.
You could make a case a top 10 coach was fired by the Grizzlies.
Correct.
I'm with you on the coaching and how many great coaches have done terrific jobs this season. I'm especially impressed with what Bickerstaff did. He didn't make any major moves. He brought in a few solid veterans to solidify that locker room, to go with that young core. And I think he made a decision that instead of wondering if Cade's a 2 or a 3, that he wants the ball in Cade Cunningham's hands at all times, which totally makes sense because he's a terrific playmaker and he's got a high basketball IQ. He did a terrific job turning around a team that won 14 games last year and they're the 6th seed in the East. I'm impressed. I'm even impressed. I know they're the defending champions, but when you're the defending champions, everybody gives you your A game. I think Joe Mazzulla did a terrific job. There's no shortage of great coaches. What Kenny Atkinson did, everybody was saying the Cavs should go out and make a splash move. And they brought back their entire core. They brought back the same bench, and they went with continuity. And Kenny Atkinson changed that culture. He empowered Evan Mobley, and it makes all the difference in the world that even though Donovan Mitchell is the clear number 1 on that team, everybody that's on that floor is considered an offensive threat. Everybody touches the basketball. They run a terrific motion offense, and I love it. And then defensively, they're one of the best defenses in all the NBA. That's all on Kenny Atkinson. I think Coach of the Year, I don't know if it's ever been done before, but I would not mind seeing co-Coach of the Year.
Facts. I'm with you when you say that. Like, I'm not against what you just said there. I do want to bring a topic up, and it's a setup. I'll be honest with you. If you had a vote for MVP, who would it be for?
If I'm voting for MVP, I'd vote for SGA.
Okay. So I want to ask you a question. And I don't know how much you remember this. I'm sure you remember it a lot more than most people do. In 2005, 2006, Steve Nash won the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And he won the MVP over one Kobe Bean Bryant. And his stats that year were 18 points per game and 10 assists. Kobe had like 32 points a game, like 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Like, Kobe should have won the MVP that year, in my opinion. Did you agree or disagree with that statement?
That's a tough one. I'm a Laker fan, but I watched that season play out. Kobe was terrific, and he was terrific on a team that wasn't very good. I think the Lakers were the 7th or 8th seed that year.
They were the 7th seed. You're correct. It's very good.
And I believe Steve Nash and the Suns were 1 or 2. They ended up
finishing the 3, but they're very close to 2.
Right, but the reason why I didn't have a problem with Steve Nash winning was that was also the season that Amari Stoudemire blew out his knee and was gone for the year. The Suns, and remember all the turnover. Joe Johnson was gone.
Yeah.
A lot of guys were gone, and they were going to be like, no one knew what they were going to be. They brought in Boris Diaw, and Steve Nash made Boris Diaw into a watered down version of Amari. Now he didn't finish the way Amari does, but he finished. and Steve Nash carried that team. I get it. His numbers don't blow you away. And as a Laker fan, I think it was that year where I thought Kobe was going to win. Let me be clear. I thought Kobe was going to win that MVP because if you saw that Lakers roster, they had no business even making the playoffs.
Well, if you had a vote that year, who would you have voted for?
I would have voted for Kobe.
Okay.
I'm giving Steve Nash credit for what he did, but even with all the losses, he still had a lot more talent around him. The cupboard was not bare in Phoenix. Kobe was playing with just a bunch of dudes, and he got them into the postseason. So, yeah, I think that particular season, even though I thought Steve Nash was stellar, that was Kobe's MVP, and I don't know. I have no idea how he did not end up winning that.
Well, the reason I bring that up and the reason that one might not coincide with the other yet, I want to commend you, Mo, because you're pretty consistent in your opinions. And I've been on record. I think Steve Nash is the most overrated player in the history of the NBA.
You have said that.
I think he's the second worst defender in the history of basketball, ahead of Luka Doncic, who I've basically just put ahead of him as worst defender ever. I'm not a Steve Nash fan. Not at all. I think this year's MVP is, I'm not saying that Steve Nash and SGA are the same. What I am saying is SGA is going to lead the NBA in scoring with 32 points a game. But statistically, I don't know if there's been a better season in the history of basketball than what Nikola Jokic is putting up this year. He's going to average a 30-point triple-double. 29.6, I round that up to 30, 12.4 assists and 10.5 rebounds. A game. Oh, and a career high in steals. Almost 2 steals per game. On a team that fired their coach 2 weeks ago, with on a team that is just constantly bleeding talent-wise. I'm not a big Nikola Jokic fan, because I hate that he like downplays it. Like, I think there's a TikTok account that you should follow, and it's a guy that basically does in Nikola Jokic impersonations, and he calls the MVP my employee of the year award, and like he's very funny, like the way he like downplays how much Nikola Jokic cares, but not that I like SGA. I'm not a big Nikola Jokic like fanatic. I love his game. Nikola Jokic should win MVP this year. And the only reason that you would make an argument that SGA should win MVP is because he's going to average the most points per game on the team that has the most wins, which makes sense if we were doing MVP 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But that statistical, we give it to the best player on the best team, has went away for years. That has not been the case for years. It hasn't.
I think more times than not, that's how it goes. We was rewarding winning. Just go back to the Derrick Rose season when he won MVP. Derrick Rose wasn't the best player in the NBA. He had a terrific year.
I agree with you. I think the last 10, 15 years, they went away from that. Nikola Jokic was the 5 seed last year. Joel Embiid was the 3. Nikola Jokic was the 6 seed in 2022. Nikola Jokic was the 2 seed in 2021. Giannis was the 1 seed in 2020. So like I get it. I just feel like that, and maybe it's because it's just Jokic. Maybe Jokic is changing my opinion on that. But Russell Westbrook was the 4 seed in 2016, 2017. So like I think that it's always been the best player on the best team prior. I think for the last 10, 15 years, maybe it's changed, but I could be wrong.
And I think that stats have their place and value. But I'm glad you brought up Russ. Yeah, Russ had that terrific season when he won MVP. But nobody, including you and me, thought Russell Westbrook was the best player in basketball because he wasn't.
No, you're right.
But he was the MVP. You know what I'm saying? Like SGA. Yes, he's the league's leading scorer. But he's also going to make the All-NBA defensive team, something Joker will never make. He does impact both ends of the floor. You know what I mean? He impacts both ends of the floor. And I'm not saying Joker's a horrible defender, but like I said, he's never going to be all NBA defense either. So to me, if you're impactful on both ends of the floor and you're the best player on the team that won 68 games, like it's not like he won 68 games and Denver won 60 games. Like he's 16 games better than the Nuggets. So I and my thing with Joker is he's already won 3 MVPs, and this is his greatest statistical year. But how do we ignore the team that won 68 games and the guy that's leading the league in scoring, and he's going to be an all-NBA defender?
I mean, you make some very compelling points. I don't argue with that. When we look back in history and we see this season by Nikola Jokic, and we're going to go, he averaged a 30-point triple-double. 10 years from now, 15 years ago, if I told you, like, actually, you know what? Let's go back 10 years. If I told you in 10 years there was going to be a guy that averaged a 30-point triple-double, before Russ did it, the only person that did it was Oscar Robertson. Before Russ did it, would you say guaranteed that guy wins the MVP?
Sure. I mean, I guess I could have said that, but how about this? Let me take another swipe at it.
Okay.
You're a huge fan of Wilt Chamberlain.
100%.
We've had so many discussions about how great Wilt is and where he belongs in the pantheon of great players. The year that Wilt averaged 50 points a game, he didn't win MVP. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. You told me some guy's going to average 50 points a game with like 23 rebounds or whatever it was, I would have said that's the MVP, and he didn't win it. So I'm just saying, I get Joker's numbers are incredible, and we should definitely shine a light on him, give him all his flowers. But if Joker wins the MVP again and Denver gets bounced out in the first or second round, I'm just saying, at some point, I get where voters would get fatigued. And look, 2 things can be true. I think SGA is worthy of being the MVP, and Joker's still the best player in the league.
Okay. I can live with that. I'll live with that, and we'll stay there. Heading into this weekend of games, what series outside of the Lakers, I know you're a Lakers fan, what series do you think you'll be most locked in on? I know you'll watch them all because you're a degenerate like I am with football.
I am. I'm a low life. Yeah.
I love it. No, it's not a bad thing. But
ask my wife.
Well, what series are you going to be? I want to watch as many of those games as possible.
I'm going to be soaking in every series, but in the Eastern Conference, I'm watching Knicks versus the Pistons. I'm watching that one. I think that's an intriguing matchup, and I've been going back and forth over who I think who's going to win the series. I at one moment I was leaning on the Knicks' playoff experience and how great a player Jalen Brunson has been in the postseason. But then on the other hand, I'm looking at Detroit, and they're young and they're coming in there with all the bravado in the world, and they don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? Like they have zero fear. The Pistons are going into the postseason thinking, we beat the Knicks every time we played them this year. Why should this time be any differently? I'm actually leaning towards that. And in the postseason, they allow more physicality. Guess what? Detroit is a much more physical team. If the refs let them play, I don't think Jalen Brunson alone can beat the Pistons. I'm actually going to take Detroit to win that series.
I was with you on Detroit to win the series until I listened to Cottrell's compelling argument about JB Bickerstaff last night. He's like, this series, I'm telling you right now, you're going to see who JB Bickerstaff really is. Last year, when the Knicks played the Cavs in the playoffs, we had issues with rebounding, and you're going to find that out. The Knicks are going to win that series. JB Bickerstaff is great to take the underrated team and get them to outperform what they were expected to do, but when the expectations become higher, he will fall apart. And I think for that reason, by the way, I looked at the Knicks stats last night. Is the Mikal Bridges trade going to be one of the worst trades in the history of basketball?
I'm going to say something that I think we both know the answer to. If they don't win a title with him on their roster, yes. Obviously, I can't foresee the future, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're not going to win a title. It is one of the worst trades because what they traded for him, you would have thought they were trading for a superstar. You're trading for a really good player. You're not even trading for a perennial all-star. You're trading for a good player, and you gave up a treasure trove of picks. I didn't understand that move. Oh, and on the last subject, everything that Cottrell said about Bickerstaff is true. But if you go by what Cottrell just said, didn't he just describe Thibodeau? That's Tom Thibodeau. He can resurrect a team and make them respectable, but he can't take them to the promised land. You described Tom Thibodeau.
It's fair. I can't argue that statement. I'll go into the Western Conference for a series I will be locked into. Another guy that deserves, I'm not saying he deserves Coach of the Year commendations, but a guy that deserves to be talked about for what he's done in a coaching perspective is Ty Lue. I'll be locked into the Clippers Nuggets series.
Oh.
I think that series is super interesting. Kawhi Leonard back in the postseason. You got James Harden. You got Norman LaFleur. A lot of people's sexy pick to come out of the West is the Los Angeles Clippers. But on the other hand, you got Nikola Jokic averaging a triple-double, and you got playoff Jamal Murray. And when I say playoff Jamal Murray, hey, look, I'll call it like it is. That guy was instrumental in their championship run a few years ago. Like, the guy was all world in a lot of those games. Christian Braun has taken a huge step forward for that Nuggets team. I think he's like fourth for most improved player of the year. So like, I think that series will be a great back and forth series. I somewhat hope that series ends on a Ben Simmons not taking the dunk opportunity again. Am I a bad person for that?
That's kind of harsh, man. I think that could turn out to be a great series. I love how the development of Christian Braun has gone over his course with the Nuggets. I'll say this about Christian Braun. They were worried about could he step into KCP's role and be as good. He's been better than KCP. The problem is when he stepped into that role, they didn't replace Christian Braun coming off the bench. The Nuggets have one of the worst benches in the NBA. They get little to no production off their bench. If this becomes a long series and it's a war of attrition, it doesn't favor Denver. Having said that, we were just talking about how great Joker is. And I love Zubac, love watching the guy improve year after year. He's a big physical guy. He can't guard Jokic. I'm going to predict Zubac is in foul trouble the entire series. I think Denver's going to win the series. I'm picking Denver on one simple thing that I've believed in as long as I've been watching basketball, and this guy's been in the league. I don't trust James Harden in the postseason. I don't. He's had a terrific regular season. He's been the linchpin for everything the Clippers have been until Kawhi came back. But if we're going to get playoff James Harden, how could anybody expect the Clippers to win the series?
I hear you. It'll be an interesting series. And then the last series I want to talk about, just because it's your squad, the Lakers. And listen, I don't care if you give me the Shay, like if you give me the Lakers in 5, I'd be fine with it. I will say this, though. I think Minnesota really pushes the Lakers. When you get into a 7-game series versus a team, you can ultimately game plan and schematically approach that team. And when I look at the Lakers, I look at a team that I said this last night to Cottrell, and Cottrell told me LeBron James should win Defensive Player of the Year this year. That's what he said. I swear to you, it's what he said.
Stop it.
I think the liabilities on the perimeter for the Lakers are going to hurt them in this postseason. Will it be versus Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves? I don't know. I don't think that team's learned how to play together at all this year. Like, I've watched them, and it looks just like, like we have talent. Like, I almost watched Minnesota, and I'm like, Anthony Edwards is going one-on-one. Okay. Julius Randle's going one-on-one. Okay. Like, it doesn't look to me like cohesive basketball, but the talent's there. Can Minnesota put together a series to keep it competitive versus the Lakers, or do you think this is a Ant Edwards, Nas? I'm kidding. I can't do the Lakers in 5 thing, but do you think this is a Lakers in 5 thing?
I do. I think Anthony Edwards could average 40 points for the series, and they still would lose in 5. I don't trust Julius Randle. He's never played well in the postseason. There's no reason for me to believe that this is going to be a special season. If he's your second option and you're in the postseason, you're going to lose. And you're right about, because it's a 7-game series, you can scheme for a team. You can get into the habits that they do and find a way to disrupt that. That works both ways. If I'm the Lakers, every time down we're on offense, I am putting Rudy Gobert in every pick and roll option because I will get any shot I want because he cannot play in space. They're going to eat Rudy Gobert alive. They're going to make him play in space. And Minnesota is actually the bigger team. So you think they would have an advantage on the boards, and my guess is the Lakers are going to probably play them even when it comes to rebounding. The Lakers have been up and down for me. I'm with you. I look at the Lakers and I go, they can look great at times when Luka and LeBron are working on all cylinders, and other times they can look very vulnerable. The Lakers' best defense is their offense. If Luka and LeBron are clicking and they're getting Gabe Vincent, they're getting Finney Smith wide open looks, and they're hitting them, this will be a fast series. For Minnesota to make this a great series, yes, Ant's got to be like, I'm the best player in this series. He has to believe he's the best player in the series and go out and do that. And then Julius Randle has to go out there and go, I don't think anyone can guard me. And whether that's true or not, he's got to play with that kind of confidence. If you can get that out of both of those guys, it can become a series. But if you're asking me right now as we walk into the series, I think it's a 5-game series at best.
I got it. I figured one out. ISO ball, Rudy's too tall, taco fall. Lakers in 5.
Lakers in 5, right? That's better than anything I would have came up with.
I just came up with it on the spot. He said ISO ball. I'm like, ISO ball, Rudy's too tall, taco fall. Rudy's in 5.
I look at the Timberwolves, I'm like, man, if they just had another guy that can handle the ball and break teams down off the dribble, they don't have it. They've got 2 players that can create for themselves and other people. That's Ant and Julius Randle to a lesser degree. Everybody else depends on what they do. And that's their struggles. They're still a good defensive team. I just don't know what you're going to do if you've got to guard LeBron on one side and then they swing the ball and you're working with Luka. Like, maybe Minnesota says we're going to lock down LeBron, let Luka play one-on-one. And if Luka's having an off shooting night, which he's very capable of, that could be a strategy. But I'm trying to look for ways where Minnesota can make it a great series. I think it comes down to what Anthony Edwards you get. If he's arrogant, if he's confident to the 10th power, and he comes out and goes, this series, I'm taking 20-plus shots a game. I'm going to get to the free throw line 8 to 10 times a game. That changes everything.
All righty. We'll see what happens in the NBA playoffs. We'll obviously be giving you updates every day on the morning show and one podcast. We got about 10 minutes left, and I won't be on tomorrow. And there's no Meaty Boys this week because we're doing a watch along for WrestleMania. So I'm going to selfishly talk a little WrestleMania. Yeah, I'm not going to have the opportunity to do it tomorrow. Now, I said this last night on Wire to Wire, but there's some great matches that are going to happen this WrestleMania. Triple H has not failed to shock me multiple times, but I think I might be a step ahead of him this time. Every single person that's watching WrestleMania is expecting and waiting for a heel turn for that main event for John Cena and Cody Rhodes. And even the interviewers, it's Seth Rollins. It's Seth Rollins. And I'm starting to believe that it might be Seth Rollins, right? Like Paul Heyman turns on Roman and CM Punk, and then Seth Rollins comes out and is the third member of the Authority. It's The Rock, John Cena, Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman. And it becomes like that Authority as going into, this year of wrestling. But then I went and I really just wanted to deep dive. I wanted to deep dive. And you know the thing that would shock the entire world is if main event Jey Uso is the third member of the Authority and turns heel after winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship as the opening match. So he gets his moment, right? WrestleMania opens up with a bang. They're the first match. He gets his moment. The crowd's going nuts for Jey Uso. You don't hear from him. You kind of forget about him because night 2 main event is here and it's gone. And you got Cena versus Rhodes, and all you hear is the final boss music, and The Rock gets involved in the match. And then glass shatters, and Stone Cold comes down to equalize The Rock. And Cody Rhodes is struggling after getting rock bottom by The Rock, and you think he's going to get beat up. You think he's going to get cheated, and you hear main event Jey Uso come down to help him, and then he super kicks Cody Rhodes, Uso splash, and then Cena hits him with the attitude adjustment. 1, 2, 3. And at the end of WrestleMania, you have Paul Heyman, John Cena, The Rock, and Jey Uso.
I'm not even mad at that plot twist because Jey is so over. Yeah, look, I heard Shally say it last night. Jey is so over that it would throw everybody for a loop if it was Jey Uso. And you're right. It started to become really, really obvious that it's going to be Seth Rollins who's the heel turn. But because it's so obvious, I think Triple H and you know that's the great thing about being in creative. That's the plan. But when you start feeling like everybody thinks they know the plan, they switch up the plan, right? Jey Uso being the other guy, that would blow my mind. And I kind of like it because I could see Heyman. I could see Jey Uso. Obviously, there's a connection because the final boss is family, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I actually prefer that to Seth Rollins, although I still think that Seth Rollins, maybe it won't happen at Mania, but Seth Rollins down the road, be it as a heel or as a face, is going to take the belt, right? That's what I believe.
I agree with you. But like, and this is me reading way too far into it. But on January 1st, The Rock said he was 20 steps ahead. Jey Uso entered the Royal Rumble at number 20. If Cena was in his back pocket already, maybe Cena falls off the apron to let Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble. Cena turns heel at forget the name of it, Elimination Chamber. And The Rock, his plan, being 20 steps ahead, is to have both champions.
Yes, that makes total sense.
And Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like, part of me thinks that, like, you're going to get that, like, that huge turn. Like, there's always just a lot to do with it. And even on night 1, Jey Uso and The Rock hugged each other. Maybe that they go back and they play that like, I just feel like that would be the twist that makes the WWE go viral. And that's what Triple H has been looking for.
Look, I think you're cooking with Crisco, fam. I'll go you a step further. This is how I'm reading too far into it. I believe in the women's triple threat. I think Bianca has a heel turn, and I think Bianca with the belt is part of that authority as well.
I love that. And I think Bianca turns on Jade in the Naomi match.
Yes,
I think it's perfect.
100%. Because obviously the Bianca heel turn, it allows her to reunite with Naomi, right? They become the people that Jade wants to get hold of, that Rhea wants to get hold of. They become the people you love to hate. Look, she's already getting serenaded with booze now, and she hasn't even turned heel yet.
I want you to think about it, though. Think about who Naomi's dating. Who is Naomi with? Who is she dating in real life?
I thought she was with Jimmy.
Yes. So you got Naomi with Jimmy in the family.
Right.
You got, think about it, though. Think about how deep this goes. You got Bianca, and Montez Ford has been on his little heel turn.
This is
recently.
true. This is true.
So you could create like a super faction with Montez, Bianca, Naomi, like Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and like have the family. It could be more than like it could be a whole year of drama. I don't know, man.
I heard you say something that I thought was brilliant last night on Wire to Wire, and you say a lot of brilliant things, but you said if Bianca turns heel, you said she would get a year heel run because it would be an incredible buildup. And I agree. I think if she's a heel, I think she gets to milk that all the way to next year's Mania.
I think that Naomi would constantly cost people that's facing Bianca matches.
Facts.
Like,
including Jade or Rhea, right?
Correct. I don't think that you get the Bianca Jade match until next year's Mania. And I think if you do get it anywhere besides next year's Mania, you're screwing it up.
100%. I agree.
So I think that it's got to be a lead up of Bianca and Jade in like a steel cage match at WrestleMania, like something like that. You have those two titans going against each other. And it's too brilliant to make Bianca the heel and Jade the face. That's too brilliant for it not to work.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Look, I hope we're not reading too much into it. Look, I hope your predictions is spot on. If that plays out in such an amazing way like that, where they form that faction at the end of the WrestleMania and Rock is sitting there as the final boss and he's got all the belts under his faction, that's going to be amazing.
I think that would be one of the greatest endings of the show. You have Bianca walking out there with the women's title. You got Jey Uso with the heavyweight title. You got John Cena, and he's like Thanos, bro. He's got all the rings, bro. He snaps his fingers. And like, last thing, and it was so shocking that we all agreed on this, and it's almost so shocking that so many people are seeing it this way. Does Triple H do the unthinkable and give Dominic Mysterio the Intercontinental title, pinning Finn Balor, creating the new Judgment Day?
100%. There's no way, and that's why they did it this way with the 4-way, because I don't think any one of them was going to beat Breakker. But this is a way for Breakker to lose the belt without one of them actually pinning him, right? Dom and Liv, they're gonna screw Finn. You know that. Finn is getting kicked out after he loses the belt to Dom.
I can't wait. I think so. I was talking to Shally thinks that this WrestleMania has a lot of meaningless matches in it. The only mistake I think this WrestleMania made was I think they put the wrong tag team titles matches on Mania. I think the women's division is an absolute joke. They wanted to give Liv Morgan a WrestleMania match, so they create this stupid tournament that made no sense with Bianca and Lyra Valkyrian as a tag team. That makes no sense. But what's even worse than that is they put over the New Day to get them in a WrestleMania match versus the War Raiders when you have Montez Ford and oh my God, what's the name of their tag team? I'm losing my train of thought. It's too early. But the champions of Raw should be the ones that are on the WrestleMania.
Right. How are they not? Right. I get it if you had champions versus champions. Maybe they got a bigger plan, but I didn't like the idea of the New Day being there because that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, like the Motor City Machine Guns, they brought so many, they've done so much work with that Raw tag team division. Like for them not to have a Mania match is laughable to me. But they're going to put the New Day over versus the War Raiders, who, by the way, I couldn't tell the War Raiders apart from. I just don't care.
Yeah, they're them being the champions. There's nothing there. You know what I mean? Like they
win that matchup, right? There's no doubt they win that matchup.
I think the New Day. You know how it's going to play out. The New Day are going to get beat down, and they're going to still win the match.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our time, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Mo, for this morning. I feel like our hour flies together, and it does. It's always good talking shop with you. But any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, it's just getting ready to be an amazing weekend. We're getting ready to have a full ton and then some of NBA playoffs, and then it's WrestleMania. My weekend is set. I know you're a guy like me that you're going to be lined up and have picture on picture and then some. I'm going to be the same way. And I'm going to spend this weekend with my wife in the background mumbling at me. But I love her. And that's my queen. So, yeah, I'm going to have a great weekend.
NBA playoffs, WrestleMania, and Easter Sunday. Thank you guys for tuning in to Wire to Wire this morning. Mo, close us out.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
We'll see you tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel.